Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 2, and we are going to discuss to you ICT policies and issues, implication to teaching and learning. Introduction. Globalization is a reality, and ICT has become a fundamental part of the process. ICT has become the leading actor in the emergence and process of globalization. The powerful use of network has broken boundaries, provided opportunities for inclusion and collaboration. Networking has provided opportunities to equal access to a window of opportunity and resources for people and let us work by cooperating with other individuals or organizations. However, there will also be a struggle for those who do not have access or those who are excluded, marginalized, and powerless. Thus, establishing policies in the use of ICT has become crucial. According to the Department of Information, Communication and Technology, the future has arrived. Now we have to ensure that we have a place in it. Lesson 1. Policies and issues on Internet and implication to teaching and learning. New technology have become central to the lives of every individual on this planet. Whether you're talking on the phone, sending an electronic mail, going to the bank, using the library, watching news on television, going to the doctor, catching a flight, or seeing a movie, you are using ICT. Almost everything that we do in the modern world is influenced by the new technologies. So, while we go on in this topic or in this lecture, please reflect on the following questions. Would your life as a teacher be influenced by the new technologies? Should we leave our lives to be controlled by technology? Or should we control the utilization of technology in our lives? How?
Hello everyone, I am Karen A. Benitez and I'm going to discuss the definition of ICT policy and the new ICT technologies. One way of enhancing and regulating the use of ICT is to formulate and implement policies to guide appropriate decisions. According to Oxford English Dictionary, policy is a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, party, ruler, or statesman. It is any course of action adopted as expedient or advantageous. Its operational definition of policy is a plan of action to guide decisions and achieve outcomes. ICT policies are needed to put a roadmap or course of actions to be pursued and adopted by various governments, organizations, entities involving ICT. So these include principles and guidelines in the use of ICT, which cover three main areas: telecommunications or telephone, broadcasting or radio and television, and internet. The new ICT technologies. More recent technological innovations increase the reach and speed of communications, which can be grouped into three categories. First category is information technology, which includes the use of computers, which has become indispensable in modern societies to process data and save time and effort. What are needed will be computer hardware and peripherals, software, and for the user, computer literacy. Second is telecommunication technologies. These include telephones with fax and the broadcasting of radio and television, often through satellites. Telephone system, radio, and TV broadcasting are needed in this category. And the third category is networking technologies. The best known of networking technologies is Internet, but has extended to mobile phone technology. Voice over Internet Protocol or VoIP, satellite communications, and other forms of communications are still in their infancy. In addition to Internet, this category also includes mobile telephone, cable, DSL, satellite, and other broadband connectivity.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marin P. Kernel, and I'm going to discuss to you the DICT roadmap and its recommended policy programs that is applied to education, teaching, learning. In our country, the Department of Information and Communication Technology, or DICT, has formulated a roadmap to guide all agencies in the utilization, regulation, and enhancement of ICT. Each project has corresponding policy statements and guidelines. The ICT for Education, or ICT4E, is a program under the DICT that supports all the efforts of the education sector in incorporating the use of ICT as well as in determining and gaining access to the infrastructure, hardware, software, telecommunication facilities, and others, which are necessary to use and deploy learning technologies at all levels of education. Among the policy recommended programs that have application to education, teaching, learning are the following: ICT and Education Master Plan for all levels, including a national roadmap for faculty development in ICT and education. A national framework plan for ICTs in basic education was developed. Content and application development through the Open Content in Education initiative, which converts depth materials into interactive multimedia content, develop application used in schools, and conduct students and teachers competitions to promote the development of education-related web content. PedNet is a walled garden that hosts educational learning and teaching materials and application for use by Filipino students, their parents, and teachers. All public high school will be part of this network with only DepEd-approved multimedia application materials and mirrored internet sites accessible from the school PCs. Out-of-school youth, providing them with ICT-enhanced alternative education opportunities. Number 5. Quality program for tertiary education through partnership with state universities and colleges to improve quality of IT education and the use of ICT and education in the country, particularly outside of Metro Manila. Digital Media Arts program, which builds digital media skills for government using open source for technologies, particular beneficiary agencies into the Philippine Information Agency and the other government media and organizations, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, National Commission for Culture and Arts and other government art agencies, state universities, and colleges and local governments units. ICT Skills Strategic Plan, which develops an interagency approach to identifying strategic and policy and program recommendations to address ICT skills demand supply type. All the 7 programs were guided by the roadmap that embeds policy statements that relate to education, specifically in the enhancement of human development for teaching and learning.
Hi everyone, I'm Ronan Dayaw and I'm going to discuss about some issues on ICT and internet policy and regulation. We have here global issues. Access and civil liberty are two sets of issues in ICT policy which are crucial to the modern society. The other concern is civil liberties, which refer to human rights and freedom. These include freedom of expression, the right to privacy, the right to communicate, and intellectual property rights. Access to the use of internet and ICT. Access means the possibility for everyone to use the internet and other media. In richer countries, basic access to internet is almost available to all with faster broadband connection. Now, Philippines can't relate. There are still countries where access to internet is still a challenge, like in our country. Infringement to civil liberties or human rights, which asks the question, what are the specific internet issues on internal policy that have relationship to civil liberties or human rights? Now we're going to the issue number 1, which is the freedom of expression and censorship. Under international human rights conventions, all people are guaranteed the right of free expression. However, with the shift from communicating through letter, newspaper, and public meetings to electronic communication and online network, a need to look into how this new means modifies the understanding of freedom, expression, and censorship. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights provides that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, likewise the right to freedom of opinion and expression. However, there are practices that violate these provisions in the use of internet. Some examples are individuals' rights are given up in order to have access to electronic networks. Microsoft Networks contract provide protection of individuals like upload or otherwise make available files that contain images, photographs, or other materials protected by intellectual property laws, including but not limiting to copyright or trademark laws, unless you own or control the right there or have received all necessary consents to the same. However, Microsoft reserves the right in its sole discretion to terminate access to any or all Microsoft Network sites or services. Next is number 2, censorship restricts the transmission of information by blocking it or filtering the information. Blocking is preventing access to whole areas of internet based upon the blacklist of certain internet address, location, or email addresses, while filtering is shifting the packets of data or messages as they move across computer networks and eliminating those considered undesirable materials. The selection of sites that are blocked or filtered has been considered as an issue. Next is the defamation action may be used to silence critique. This action deters or discourage the freedom of expression. So that will be all. Thank you.
Issue number 2, privacy and security. Security is about the safeguarding of data. We put security controls in place to limit who can access the information. Whereas privacy is about the safeguarding of user identity. Privacy is harder to define, in part because user-specific details can also be secure data. For example, hospital and clinic staff use secure systems to communicate with patients about their health. Instead of sending information via personal email accounts, this type of data transmission is an example of security. On the other hand, privacy provisions might limit patient health record access to specific hospital staff members, such as doctors, nurses, and medical assistants. Privacy might also stipulate when users can access specific information. Personal information, including your email, address, phone number, and social security number, is worth a lot of money to legitimate businesses and bad guys. So if you want to protect your information, you must not fill out your social media profile, keep your social network activity private, be choosy about sharing your social security number, set up a Google alert of your name, and many more. There are several types of privacy. First, personal privacy. It is the right of individuals not to have their home, private life, or personal life interfered with. Second, privacy of communication. It refers to the protection from interference with communication over the phone or internet. Respect for privacy of communication is an essential prerequisite for the maintenance of human relationship via technological communications media. Third, information privacy. It is related to the use of computers and communication systems which are able to hold and process information about large numbers of people at a high speed. It is important to ensure that information will only be used for purposes for which it was gathered and will not be disclosed to others without consent of the individuals. Issue number 3, surveillance and data retention. Think of it this way. How does knowing that somebody is watching your every online move and can access a log of all your online interactions, download, and outright everything you said make you feel? Besides that, data retention is a considerable threat in many political regimes where people have to resort to self censorship whenever they are online. Otherwise, they risk serious legal repercussions. Data retention is the process through which governments and businesses record and store various data. Nowadays, data retention more or less refers to the way Internet user data is handled and stored. Most businesses and government institutions have a data retention policy in place that outlines how they approach this. Data retention policy is the first step in helping protect an organization's data and avoid financial, civil, and criminal penalties that increasingly accompany poor data management practices. There are very few laws that effectively regulate data collection or protects us from the unprecedented level of surveillance we are currently experiencing. This makes it even more important to support privacy protection laws and standards in order to work towards change both now and in the future. It also makes it important that we remain aware of an issue that is relatively invisible, benefiting corporations and governments, and find ways to create interest and awareness among our own networks and friends.
Issue number 4, e-pollutants from e-waste. Before I start the discussion, I will first define what is e-waste. So, electronic waste or e-waste describes discarded electrical or electronic devices, used electronics which are destined for refurbishment, reuse, resale, salvage, recycling through material recovery or disposal are also considered as e-waste. Large amount of e-waste is generated by ICT. These are, in particular, terminal equipments used for computing such as PCs, laptops, broadcasting such as television and radio sets, telephony such as fixed and mobile phones, and peripherals such as fax machines, printers, and scanners. The accumulated e-waste is due to rapid turnover of equipment due to rapid improvement of software. While material waste can be destroyed by crushing, toxic material broth about by the different equipment requires utmost management. The quantities of e-waste are increasing in both developed and developing countries. A very dismal state is that there is a significant amount of electronic waste that has been shipped from industrial countries to developing countries using less environmentally responsible procedure. Remedies include standardization and regulatory measures to increase the life cycle of equipment before they become obsolete. Efficient extraction of toxic components and requiring the recycling by both consumers and equipment vendors are selling must be required. If not controlled then, e-waste will tremendously affect climate change, damage human lives, and overload the capacity of the earth in carrying solid waste. Implications to teaching and learning. There are great implications of these lessons to both the teachers who are teaching and the learners who are learning. For the teachers and teaching. Number 1. Guide the teachers on what they should teach that relate to ICT and how to teach it. Since ICT development comes so rapid and fast, teachers might be overwhelmed by its rapid speed. Temperance in its use is a caution that should be looked at. Number 2. Technology should never replace any human teacher. The tools are support, instructional materials for the teachers which are available for use. The teacher should learn how to appropriately use them. The human touch of the teacher is still a virtual component in teaching. Teachers should always be reminded that there are always limitations in the use of the different gadgets and tools. Number 3. There are rules and regulations that govern the use of technology. Caution should be observed to protect individual privacy. As teachers, you must be aware that the use of technology may jeopardize your privacy and security. And lastly, all the issues and many more shall be part of the teaching content as each teacher will be encouraged to use technology in teaching.
For the learners and learning. The learners of the 21st century are even more advanced than some of the teachers. However, learners still need guidance on how to use and regulate technology use. As there are positive and negative effects of technology use, learners should know the difference. Learners of the 21st century era are the learners who are exposed on technology, and it's quite true that the learners are more advanced at using technology than some of the teachers. But the purpose of the teacher is to facilitate learning and guidance to students on how to regulate technology use. Maybe learners of the 21st century are more advanced, but there are positive and negative effects of technology use. That's why a teacher's presence is highly prescribed and needed. Learners should not only know the benefits of technology use, but they should also know how they can be protected from the hazards that technology brings to their lives. Learners believe that technology is very beneficiary and comes a great handy in their educational activities, but it's also essential for the learners to know the hazards that technology might bring to their lives. Hazards in technology might include losing sleep or skipping physical activities due to technology use. It's causing you stress or anxiety. Or you're noticing physical side effects such as tension, headache, eye strain, muscle pain, or overuse injury. Learners should take advantage of the potential of learning support they can derive, such as the development of higher order thinking skills, the development of learning communities through collaborations, the enhancement of skills to manage the vast resources as 21st century learners, and many more. Learners should be mindful and have the advantage of the potential of learning support. They should develop vast order thinking skills and develop good relationship, which may lead to good collaborations. The enhancement of skills in order to have command on vast resources, and also to be resourceful as 21st century learners. Both the teachers and learners should be mindful of the e-waste that are being thrown away to the lands and to the atmosphere. Thus, safety in the use of technology must be present. Both teachers and learners should be careful and mindful of disposing e-waste. It might cause problems to lands even in atmosphere because of the laundry list of chemicals that are harmful to the environment. Safety in the use of technology should also imply safety and mindful disposal of e-waste.